Okay. I think we are live.
Awesome. How's everybody doing today? I'm Chloe,
And I'm Sandy. And this
and
is
this is WordStitch
WordStitch.
Brayden's. What?
Oh,
Oh,
no,
God.
that was just in sync right there.
Oh,
Um,
God, that was creepy, though. Let's never do that again.
okay.
So I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody had a good finish to their Camp NaNoWriMo. We're going to be doing the same old thing today, but we are going to be on Twitter. I am doing my best to get Twitter all queued up for you guys, and we are going to do our absolute best today to make sure that we are in sync with that Twitter. Sandy, what you working on today?
Oh, what I've been working on for like the last 6 months or so. But okay, I have actually been making progress. I'm working on my Kingdoms of the Frozen Dead, and I'm like 64,000 words like solid into it, where like that draft is happy. So I think that's good.
Perfect. Yeah.
What
I
about
am
you?
um I am literally at the epilogue of the rough draft that I am working on. So hopefully, if things go well today and I actually sprint when I'm supposed to be sprinting, and not working on Twitter, and we'll get to that. I will actually have that rough draft completed today.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, I am tweeting to us right now, which is something you could do if you were watching, so that we know you're with us. Um, I don't do this very often, so you guys are gonna have to tell me if this like works out. Writing with at WordStitch right.
Where are you putting that?
Twitter.
Oh, you're actually tweeting us.
Uh
Okay.
huh.
Yes. I see your response. Where are you putting that?
Twitter.
Oh no.
Oh, you're actually tweeting us.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, sorry about that. We have retarded technical difficulties sometimes. I don't know if that was me or her. Okay. I don't know what's going on
Well,
Twitter
it's
right now.
okay because so
I
if
hate the current Twitter layout. I know that that's what we say every single time anything changes at all, that we hate the new update, but I feel like this new update deserves its hatred.
I haven't had major problems with it yet, but I do have trouble with Hootsuite. But you know what? We should talk about that after our first prompt. And if you haven't joined us before and you're with us here today, we are basically doing timed writing sprints. So your job is just to write with us and take breaks when we're talking, or
Mhm.
like listen to us chat if you want. Whatever, we're good with
You
that.
can even join in on the
You could
chats.
even join in the
Yeah.
chat. Yeah, it could happen. Um,
Yeah.
Via Twitter or on YouTube. So, but we are at 405, and our first writing prompt is the. Did I do this? This is the title of your favorite. No, the title of the book you're currently reading. Is that the one I did?
Yes, that is exactly
Yes.
what it is.
Okay.
We are going to start now. I'm having a slight technical difficulty getting my timer
Oh, do you want me
up.
to do
Oh,
the
no.
timer? You're
There we
good.
go. I got it. So
Okay.
go ahead and start writing now, and I will have that timer live in just a second here.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. How long has that been? Many
It was
minutes?
it was like 10 seconds.
Oh, good. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that was me getting caught up in thinking about my cover. So I didn't do a good job of writing. Sorry.
No. No, I was hoping I was going to play it off as look how good of writers we are. Sandy got so wrapped up in it that
Sorry.
she
Yeah.
missed the timer, but no, it wasn't even anything like that. She's working on cover art right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Which is
Are
still
you like really
important.
just stressing about the edges though? It's
No. No, that was another stress. I'm stressing about the barcodes right now. If you have
okay.
not yet attempted to self-publish one of your books, like the cover and the blurb turn out to be like 50% of what
Yeah.
sells your book. So like you write these beautiful words and you've spent thousands of hours or whatever on them and years making them perfect, and guess what? No one's gonna read them if your cover is not amazing. So yeah, so I'm being a little cover neurotic right now. I have a great designer. I'm really happy with how it's all turning out. Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
I feel like I've learned a lot about that whole kind of thing. Like, did you know that if you use the Ingram Spark cover template generator and your own ISBN, that Ingram Spark will generate a template with a barcode that you can like easily copy and paste to your Amazon template, so that your book covers can have the same ISBN for your Ingram Spark stuff and your. This is not going to make sense to anybody who hasn't done it, is it?
No. No, just to clarify on this is that if you do not go wide, and you're only publishing on Amazon, Amazon gives you ISBNs, and ISBNs are ISBNs. They're basically your barcode. Every book has to have one. Every printed book has to have one. So if you are printing through Amazon's printer, which is that part of KDP?
Yeah, Amazon's printer is KDP.
Yes. So KDP gives you an ISBN, but that book can only be sold through Amazon. So if you are going wide and either producing it through a different publisher or through a different printer, like Ingram Spark, if you are trying to get it in bookstores, you have to buy ISBNs. They're super expensive. And like it's real weird because like I'm making up these numbers, but trust me when I say that my numbers are not far off. It's really weird because like one is $100, but 100 of them is only $1,000. It's a real messed up how they work.
Yeah.
But so ISBNs or ISBNs are super important when you get to the publishing side of things. You have to understand how they work. You have to put forth this money for it if you are self-publishing. And also, if you are self-publishing, getting the size of your book cover right can be a nightmare. So the fact that Ingram Spark does this so that they can be printed on both Ingram Spark and Amazon with the exact same code on them is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, yeah. And now, draft to digital will also give you an ISBN number. Like if you're willing to share your revenues a little bit.
Wait, I mean, this is going to sound like me being really smart, but dead serious question.
Mm-hmm.
I thought draft to digital was all digital.
Yeah, but they will. So yes, but they're doing a print beta program right now,
Gotcha.
and so
Again, if you missed me say this before, the reason that was an issue is that if it is digital, it does not need an ISBN on it. It is only necessary when it's actually on paper. Keep going.
right, right, and I mean all of these things are. I mean, it's. I think all of this stuff is all kind of like tricky because so a company like Drafted Digital, which will give you ISBNs, also uses the ISBNs, I think, like to determine where they can distribute your books. So
Okay.
there's and when you read their articles on it, the article itself that they write is pretty complicated. It'll be like, well, there are benefits to buying your own and there's benefits to using ours. So which one is right? but they don't give you a definitive answer. And Amazon's
And Lord knows if you ask the writing community, you will never get a definitive answer about ever.
No. So you're just gonna have to do your best and experiment a little bit, which is what I'm doing right this second. I also, oh my gosh, the amount of time that I like neuroticized over how big the spacing for the blurb on the back of the book should be.
Just out of morbid curiosity, is neuroticize a word or did you make that up? It's a good word.
I may have made it up.
That's cool. Keep going.
I feel like it's totally appropriate for what I did. I like pulled out every YA book that I had. I printed the proof that the designer had given me, like on black and white paper, and like taped it around a book of the same size so that I could see exactly what it would look like. Then I like measured just how like, far everything was, and it turns out that like different books have different standards, but in YA, this is, I don't know, maybe nobody cares about this but me, but I care about it.
I think there's the difference between the fact that you're trying to write YA fantasy and I write smut, so I genuinely don't care except to appease the Amazon gods.
Yeah, but I think that this stuff is, I think the thing that's important about this is to think about it for your genre, right? So like for mine, so you see how the back of that book, there, I think it's in the camera right now, like those paragraphs don't have space between them, but the sentences kind of do. So like,
that doesn't look great.
Yeah, but that's actually like pretty common. So it turns out that the vast majority of my YA books, including say like here, so this is Red Queen, and see how it's the same way. The one I just showed you has like.
I haven't seen it yet, but when it's there we go.
Yeah.
That one looks better.
Yeah, it does.
That looks a lot better than the last one you held up. Make it look like that, not the other one.
Well, and I mean the difference is that like Red Queen's, the font is bigger and the margins are bigger.
Yes, that's 100% what it is. All of that is true.
So I actually, like, that's the kind of thing I looked at, and I totally went for, like,
also,
the Red
Queen. I feel
Queen.
like kerning is better, which, again, is one of those terms that you will never need to know until you actually get into publishing.
No, I paid attention to that. Like, I looked at, like, should I use optical kerning or metric kerning? I didn't even know the difference between those until 3 days ago.
So you guys know, kerning is the space between your letters.
Yeah, it's a thing. Like, this is...
It's an important thing when you're actually doing your own book covers. Kerning is everything.
Yeah. But the inside of your book, too, like, now that I've started, like, messing around with typesetting, I feel like this whole world has, like, opened in my eyes. Like, I've been looking at books of, like, people I know who self-publish, where, like, I've thought... like, what is wrong with this one? Even if the story is great, like, why don't I like how it looks? And it's all typesetting. Like, on the inside, it'll be somebody didn't take the time to go through and make sure that there aren't, like, widows and orphans, and to make sure that, like, the block of text at the bottom of the page is even all of the time. And those things...
throws out widows and orphans, like you all know that term and you don't.
You do know that term.
So real quickly, widows and orphans are like random. When you turn a page, you should never have like the very beginning of or when you turn a page, you should never have the very end of a paragraph, like a couple words of a paragraph. And at the end of the page, there shouldn't be a single line of the next paragraph happening. Those are orphans and widows. It is 4:24 though on the East Coast. Which means that our next sprint is about to start.
Okay, I'll neuroticize about typesetting more, possibly.
Yeah, do that on the next break. I'm all about this. I love this stuff.
All right, cool. Good luck writing, everyone.
Yes, go ahead and start now, and I'll have that timer up in just a second.
Okay, we are back. We should be back. You can't hear me. Hello? Did I mute you, Chloe? I didn't mute you. Did I mute me? No. You can hear me. Did I mute you, Chloe? I didn't mute you. Wait, I can hear you now. No. You can hear me. Wait, no, I can hear you. Can you not hear me? Wait, I can hear you now. No. You can hear me. Wait, no, I can hear you. Can you not hear me? Wait, I can hear you now. If you are joining us, we are
Can you hear me now?
I have been able to hear you. Can you hear me? Yes. Yes. Yes.
You're muted in Hangouts. Hi. We're great at this.
Are you sure I'm muted in Hangouts? Am I muted now? Now, am I muted now? Okay. Okay, how about this?
Oh, say it again.
Am I muted now? Camera is muted.
You're definitely muted in Hangouts.
Okay. That's bad.
But you're not muted in YouTube. So maybe keep talking in YouTube and then we'll figure stuff out from there.
Right.
But yeah, my speakers are fine, so it's you.
Okay, let me test mine here.
Sadie, yeah, my speakers are fine, so it's you.
Oh, okay. I'll try restarting that, I guess, and see. So we're going to lose Chloe for just a second, guys. And I'm going to put our technical difficulties screen up for just a moment.
Like closed it that we did talk before, like when I first jumped back on. So I don't know what happened, but anyways, get us back in there.
We're back in. We are back in. I have us back in. Hi. Wow.
Okay, so we have 6 minutes left on this. I don't know. So a little bit about that, like whole technical difficulty that we just had. I am still at the hotel. I feel like that is pretty obvious from the scenery behind me. So I've been living in this hotel for almost 2 months now. so like the internet, it turns out that if you live in a hotel, you have to like reboot the internet every few days because it forgets that you have a 55-day room reservation. And of course, that happens at like 4:30 on arbitrary days. So that was where like things got a little wonky during that break. And then apparently it just continued to get wonky. So I apologize. The good news is that either next week or the following week I will be home. Next week we are slightly up in the air because I might need to do an emergency trip to New York State to visit my mother who has gone crazy. But either way, I will be back the following Monday and at home. Yeah.
You know, I think I can. I think I can man the video-less version of this on Monday if you are not available, so we could at least tweet stream to people.
Yeah. If you want to run the Twitter, you can. The Twitter is just like kind of running itself right now. I hop on occasionally to say something if I need to. I have it all running through Hootsuite, though. I am watching it. I realize when I say that, it sounds like I'm not doing anything, and it's just like on autopilot, and that's kind of lame. I'm watching it. It's just it's also kind of hard to type and talk at the same time and get timers going and all of that. So, yes, if you want to do a little thing on Twitter, you should get the hang of it as well.
I think I will try that. Okay, so we were talking about typesetting. We have 3 minutes left.
No, but let's save that for the 15-minute because also like we can just fill this with other random stuff. Like the fact that like one of the issues that I'm having right now in my story is I am doing shifter romance. And she is a deer shifter. And I want to refer to her as a doe. Because a doe, deer, female deer. And also she is with a bunch of sisters. So I often refer to them as the does because it's a bunch of does. Does and does are spelled the same way. And I feel like it's making the story completely unreadable.
Does and does. Yes, they are. That is part of why does is such a difficult word to spell for 4 little letters. Yeah.
Yeah. And like every time I type it out, I'm like, people are going to read this as does, and they're not going to get that they're does because, with shifter romances, like, yes, their animal aspects are important, but the majority of the time they're people because it's really hard to write a story about a deer and a wild pig having a relationship unless they're actually humans most of the time.
I feel your pain. I don't really feel your pain, but I think it's funny.
Oh, and the other fun fact, so I've been using this word a bunch as well, but it's gonna obviously, when I say it, also cause severe problems. So doe is not actually the proper term for a female deer. The proper term for female deer is a hind.
Oh dear.
Like a behind.
Yeah, you can't use that.
Yeah, so like I use it like in reference to they're like the deer are kind of a weird cult in my stories. Founded on fuckery and mojitos. Trust me, it makes sense in the story. But they're kind of this weird cult. So all the girls go to like Hind Academy, which is not like a major deal, except that like the way that they act are because they've been trained to act this way. So I kept the term for that. And then like if they are mated to the like lead stag, then they're the lead hind. But other than that, it's kind of does, but also most of the time it's sisters, because again, sisters is not a confusing word like both Doe's and Heinz are. It is 5 o'clock though, so I filled that time perfectly. It is time for our 1K 30 minutes. So go ahead and start writing now, and I will have that timer up in just a second.
Okay.
All right. Did we get everything to work right this time?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. I think we're good then.
Perfect.
I know, right? I actually worked on a scene that time.
I finished a novel that time.
Well, that was an excellent 30K for you then. Good
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
I don't know if I like the ending, like, and by that I mean the very last line, which I feel like normally I nail, and I don't know that I did this time, but that's okay because I got to edit, and maybe in that I will figure something better out.
You will figure something better out.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. Yeah. That's awesome. Good.
Yes. So
Okay.
anyway, your rant on book covers.
And
We're back to that.
typesetting.
And
Yeah.
typesetting.
Yeah. Yeah. So, am I allowed to rant? Can I rant?
Yeah, go for it. We
Yeah.
got 15 minutes, and I don't know what else to talk about, except the fact that I am in a sales promo now that my book cover does not match, but that's okay. Tell me about your problems. Mine are smaller.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not as much a problem anymore, but like, so when I initially self-published my book, I did not think at all about typesetting. Like I thought
Yeah.
I did. So this is an example of a page, and I thought pretty hard about things like the little chapter icon and the spacing
Yeah.
between the lines and everything.
Justified you're there.
Yeah. Right. I justified things. I did not think at all about stuff like, is this a middle grade spacing or is it YA spacing?
Yeah.
It turns out I created really nice middle grade spacing. Is this centered really well on the page or no? And so you know how like you've got to put either your name or like the chapter title up at the top there?
Mm-hmm.
Like that means you've got to think about what goes on at the bottom. And I could never figure out how to get that like centered on the page. Well, it turns out that's because Word just doesn't do a very good job with that. And things like...
Recall that was a major drama for me.
Oh, yeah, no, this is like huge. And stuff like... So those two lines there, I'm not sure you can actually see, but those two pages don't... they aren't even on the bottom, like at all. So
you're not... Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong screen. I think if I was looking at the YouTube screen, it would probably... No, you know what? You're really off to the side, so it's just hard for anybody to see that because it looked like you were showing us one page when you were actually showing us 2 pages.
Yeah, I was trying to show 2 pages, and it's a little bit difficult to see in something like that. Maybe this one is a little bit better.
So when you converted it to PDF, so just so you guys know, if you have not made a book to be printed yet, what it is ultimately it's printing a PDF. And I think that's the same for everybody, right? That you give them a PDF and they print it for you. So it's just how you go about making that PDF. Right. So my question is, on your PDF, were those 2 pages aligned?
No, and I mean this is the thing, right? So I don't know if can you see that one better?
Hold on, I'm sorry. I just gotta switch screens a bunch because we're out of sync slightly. I can see it better, and we'll see if yes, it is popping up better on YouTube now. Okay. And yes, those are definitely like an entire
line,
like 3/4 of a line off.
Yeah. Okay. So this is not because like Word somehow converted badly to PDF. This is because Word does typesetting like really poorly and doesn't give you a very good like way to look and see if things are even. So like for example, you can't easily look at your pages in a 2-page spread. You see them sort of like 1 page at a time, or like the only good way to see them together is if you've maybe like added an extra page or like extended the pages out onto your screen so you're seeing 3 at once, which gets really confusing.
Yeah, I dual monitor. I was gonna say I don't remember
Mm-hmm.
this being a problem for me, but I dual monitor, so it's not something that I would even have an issue with.
Well, I dual monitor too, but even if you have a really enormous screen, you've still got to set your Word up so that you can see the right pages next to each other.
Gotcha.
And even then, like, Word doesn't have good options to fix that stuff. So,
Yeah.
like, in your typical Word document, you don't see pages side by side. So it's not really set up for a publishing format. It's set up to see one page at a time. So, like, Word doesn't really care if pages 2 and 3 end at exactly the same spot and also
Right.
start. And that's the tricky thing, right? Is like it's not just like they need to line up at the bottom, they need to line up at the top. So what you really need is a program that will let you work with like a block of space and that will fill that block of space. And the options for that are, I mean, there are great options. So I've been learning Adobe InDesign so that I can make my typesetting beautiful. And it is going to be beautiful. It's a hard program to learn. So if you were into this and you really wanted to do it right, you could also get a program like Vellum, which is, I think, Mac only, but which
It is.
supposedly does a beautiful job.
It's supposedly the bestest thing ever, yes.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like I've looked at some of the stuff that gets done with Vellum, and even if it is easier, I think, like there's a lot of stuff with typesetting where you might go, this line needs just like let's say you have two lines and like somebody's talking in dialogue and the dialogue runs over the span of the page by one word, right? So like really what you need to do there is like cut that first line so that there are two words on the second line.
Mhm.
And then you need a program that will like adequately space those words out. Well, InDesign will do that beautifully, but like Word won't. And I don't know if Vellum gives you custom options for it. I think it like thinks it's smarter than you and therefore does its thing without
Right.
you. But I have to tell you, like, once you start doing this and getting like neurotic about it, then you look at other people's self-published books and you're like, whoa, this is a massive difference. Like it makes it's the world. Like you don't even know it, but like that's why a book looks so good when a traditional publisher does it and so lousy when a self-publisher does
Right.
it. Even if you think you've done it well, it's very hard to get it
Mhm.
right. Um, and I don't know, like I saw, okay, so there was a
Unless
Facebook
you just
post.
accept that it's not going to look like that.
What?
Unless you just accept that it's not going to look like that.
Yeah, and I mean, in some genres, I don't think it matters. Like, I feel like in the romance genre, you get away with a lot. But if you're trying to compete in the
And
YA
romance, I've
genre,
seen messes in traditionally published.
mm,
But again, I've also seen like typos, like really bad, like not typos as in like the wrong word or like it's a slight error, but like literally the wrong word is used. So yeah, there's a lot of flexibility in romance.
I mean, yes, and you're right. Like, certainly it's true that there will be some mistakes in other books, but I don't know. Almost all of my YA books are done really, really well. Like, there aren't, the typesetting is gorgeous. It looks, consistent on every page. You
Mhm.
flip through and it's just like really pleasing to the eye. And that's because somebody's thinking about how your book is going to feel. And I think this is something we underestimate. Like there was a Facebook discussion in one of the novel books recently. Somebody like asked, they set up like a poll. It was like, do you like dropped caps or not? Which like,
Oh yeah.
did you might have responded. I probably learned about it because you responded to it because Facebook
Yes,
tells me these
exactly.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you disagreed with me.
Did I? I just no. Well, I disagreed with everybody. I disagreed with the premise of the question because she like set up a poll. Do you like dropped caps or not? And it was honestly just not a very good question because everyone on Facebook who answers is going to be answering based on what books they like to read and what books they like to write. And they're not even recognizing that dropped caps are typesetting. This is about like the design and feel of the book. It's not like, is it like something I personally like this should be like in your genre, with your specific target audience. Like when they read your sci-fi, fantasy, adult, young adult novel, are they expecting drop caps, or are they expecting like
small caps?
Are they expecting 4 words at the beginning that are capped, or are they expecting like a date and a time? Are they looking for like some wonky space age text? And like all of that contributes to how your reader feels when they read your book. So I felt like it was like the person who posted that question, I could totally have seen myself posting that 5 years ago and having no clue that actually I really needed to learn more about that, right? Because like that's not enough. Like you're not gonna, you can't just, at least if you're in a market that's competitive, like you got to do better. So I thought it was a really interesting discussion, and like highlights an aspect of publishing that really does not get talked about. Like mostly people ignore it. I don't know. Maybe I'm being super neurotic about it, but I don't think so.
I definitely think that like all of this is important with the cover. I feel like, well, so I feel like if this is something that is still going to be purchased online, then it doesn't matter because they already have it in their hand. When, like they've already paid for it by the time that they see what the guts of it look like. But I don't know. I don't remember back in the bookstore days of my life thumbing through books before I bought them. I don't remember, in fact, like even recently going to the library, I don't remember ever thumbing through books. So I don't know, like typesetting, and this could be, again, the fact that, like you said, you're doing YA. Typesetting for me stands out for MG. I always think of like Harry Potter had beautiful typesetting in it. And I think the older you get, the less essential it gets. But again, also the older you get, I think the more likely it is to be a digital book anyways. So I don't know. I don't know in the genres. I don't know because what I read doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah, no, this is
Because I read YA, or I don't, excuse me, I read some YA fantasy, but not a lot. And then I read a lot in the romance genre because that's what I write. And then I read lit fic, and they do whatever the fuck they want.
well, I mean, litfic is its own little thing, but yeah, no, I mean, you're right. Okay, so here's my.
Like, they do what they do very well, but like lit fic, especially if they're independently published, those are authors who, like, you cannot tell them to follow market standards, like lit fic authors are notorious for saying, I'm going to do things how I want them done. So
Yeah.
even their covers, I mean, there are some trends in their covers, but not like there are in genre fiction. It is 5:44 though. So we have our final sprint coming up in just a minute.
Okay, let's get to it.
And then we'll have some final words on this topic.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh God, I called it too early and we didn't fill that time. I hate
Should have let me make that last comment about the Harry Potter book.
Yeah, I left everybody with that. Oh God. Harry Potter is so beautiful.
So beautiful.
Like the whole flipping font is magical. It's so subtly magical. You don't notice it until you're reading, until you're like, look at that goddamn font. They printed, I'm so, that print on that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share this screen, and I'm going to hit the start button because this is the longest minute in all of eternity. Go ahead and start. There it is. Woo! All right. Looks like we are about done for the day. So Sandy, your final thoughts
About writing or typesetting.
about typesetting, because I said I'd give you final thoughts on that.
Okay, so my final thoughts are that, like, regardless of whether regardless of what kind of book you're writing, you should make your decisions about typesetting consciously. So, like, if you're not going to care about it, then do it because you feel it's not worth the time for your genre. But keep in mind that it's a risk that you won't look as professional as somebody who is published with, like, a traditional publisher. And, I mean, you should definitely then know stuff like, if you are in YA or middle grade, you need your books in, like, libraries, like hardcover books. So people will pick up those books, and that means they got to look beautiful. So, like...
YAMG, you definitely need it. We are not in a disagreement about that one at all.
But I don't think we're in a disagreement about romance either. I'm much more lax with my romance stuff. I actually have started typesetting them because I like how they... Well, yeah, and it's good practice, right? Like, if I mess up the typesetting in romance, I'm not nearly as worried. But and once I have it figured out, like, then there are templates that you create for yourself, and it becomes much, much easier. So I suppose that's my other second thought is, like, if it's worth it to you to learn, or you have any, like, Photoshop or Adobe experience whatsoever, then honestly, like, I have found that creating a book and making it look pretty in InDesign is actually much easier than making it look pretty in Word, which is surprising. Like, I thought it would be much harder. It's more expensive, but it's...
Yeah, and I think that's it. Like, for me, it's I've already paid for Word, and really, Word, I do still think that I just gotta get a better handle on it.
A Word does a great job for what it is, right? And I mean, it certainly tries, right? Like, there are things it does. So I'm not totally
not
opposed.
trashing on Word.
I'm not. No, I think it was a great program. I you know what the worst thing is when you see a book and it was like somebody's been published by an independent publisher. Like, they have an actual publisher who has responded to a query and published their book, and then you look at the book and you go, oh my gosh, this looks like something like I would have done 10 years ago, because that's
You're
how...
talking about a vanity press there, right?
I don't think so. I think a lot of, like, small independent publishing houses are basically people like us.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair, because I've dealt with them before, like, not on a publishing level, but on a personal level. I know those people, and I have gotten their books before, and you're right. I'm just, you know what it is that, like, I look at them and I'm like, oh, you're a local publisher. Like, you're the one who's publishing the lighthouses of the Outer Banks.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think that's, I mean, it's a shame when, like, those publishers haven't learned this stuff, because it's, I mean, it makes all the difference, and it's not that hard.
Material or courier, yeah.
Yeah, right? Like, oh my gosh. And especially then, like, if you are an author and you're being published by one of these houses and they're not worrying about stuff like this, then you should be worried, because that means you're probably not with somebody that's very serious about the whole thing. Like, that's not good for you.
Well, they're not experienced enough to know what they need to be looking for either.
Right, and if they're not experienced enough to think about how the book looks, then how on earth are they going to manage your marketing? Like,
right. So, really? Yeah, I think then, like, the final piece of advice for today is going to be that if you do try to go through a smaller publisher, see what they've put out already.
Yeah, seriously.
It's a weird, like, really roundabout way to get to that message, but it's an important message.
All right. Do you have any final other things on that? I took over this with typesetting.
No, I'm good with that, because, again, like, I'm pretty scatterbrained with everything that's going on, and also, like, finally finishing this novel that should have been finished a month ago.
Okay.
So I was glad that you had, like, an adventure to go on there.
I had an adventure. Yeah. Maybe
so I think that's everything. So I will hopefully be with you guys next week, and Sandy definitely will be.
So it'll be like me and Chloe's cats, or just pictures of our pets. Either way, there will be something.
Yeah.
So we will see you guys next week for reels or in spirit. And happy writing, everyone.
Happy writing. Good luck with your writing journey, everybody. Bye.